Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 103 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me today are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hey guys.
And Grace.
Hi everyone.
Today we'll be talking about 911 OG episodes 613 and 614, titled Mixed Feelings and Performance Anxiety. As always, we have a lot to talk about, and I'm sure we'll go on a few tangents, so we should probably get started.
Y'all know me and my tangents.
We've had some really good ones, though. I will say that.
It leads to good things. I will say that.
we have.
So 613 starts with the cycling call where this instructor passes out. Yeah, I'd never get on one of those bikes. Nope, not happening. And everybody had been drinking this drink that he was advertising and sharing, and then a lot more people started passing out from this tummy tea, and Buck is suddenly all of a sudden doing math in his head, and accurate math, which I love.
Texted you guys saying Buck and math.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I loved it. And then Chim was like, did he just do math in his head? And he's like, I think so. Yeah. And they the whole thing was whatever this tea had in it was dehydrating everybody. So they had to just give them plain water, and that was fine. It was
guys, you don't need to do a new fandangled thing for everything. Water is fine.
I know. Yeah.
I don't get all those things they have for
it's literally people just taking advantage of people's either insecurities or their drive to improve themselves or whatever. It's literally just people taking advantage. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
the body was meant to handle water.
Yeah, I like water.
Yeah.
Water's
Me
just
too.
good enough for me.
Yeah. I love water, but I didn't realize how much of a water snub I was until I moved to a different area and it had different water. Now I have to drink filtered water. It's
that was me in college, because obviously anybody that has literally lived in a dorm knows that the water is nasty. So filtered water all the way. Get yourself a Brita.
Right. Brita. Oh my gosh, I grew up on that.
Yeah.
Granted, we did have a well that was just on our farm. So we had nice water to begin with anyway, or at least decenter.
Right.
We didn't have city water, but still,
yeah, we do. So, I think the first time I tried well water, I was like, what the frick is this?
Yeah, there's a lot of minerals in it that are supposed to be good for you, but it tastes interesting. So
it does taste interesting. We still Brita, Brita that water, but at least it was already cleaner than the city.
Yeah.
And now I live in the city water, and it's and now we have to do this because we're gonna die.
So anyway, Chim, and the next scene is Chim showing up at Hen and Karen's to pick up Hen because apparently they're having some car trouble, and I guess to pick up Denny as well. And with Chim's dad being in town, kind of Chim, it came up in conversation with Denny while they were waiting for Hen, and Chim had said that he had made peace with his dad, and he can't be mad at his dad forever. It was really cute to see Chim interacting with Denny because you don't see that very often.
Yeah.
But
no, not at all.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is because obviously we know from the last episodes that Denny has been sneaking behind Hen and Karen's backs to go see his biological father, and and then I love how when Hen did eventually come out, she's like, well, how long have you been here? And Chim kind of passes it off and pretends like they weren't even having a conversation.
I just got here.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim.
Which was good because they kind of talked about a topic that's a little bit of a prickly subject for Hen and Karen, so I can understand that.
Oh yeah, it was good.
So next we get this really awesome scene with the Buckley Diaz family, and Chris is asking Buck all these math questions, and Chris is fact checking him, and Buck's like, he knows everything. I love it. And Eddie's like, yeah, and it was so normal. It just seemed right in the world to have this happening.
Right. I just love Buck being not everything. Yes.
Not everything, like modestly. It's not modest.
And Buck's like, I guess I like math, and Eddie's like Googling, and like he finds out that like you can sometimes get different cognitive abilities after you get struck by lightning, or injuries to the central nervous system, and which Buck obviously had because he got electrocuted by lightning. And I was like, oh, so where are they going with this one? I was really curious.
I know, I loved it though, and like, cause I've always heard about stuff like that happening. Like you always hear about that like old wives' tale or whatever it was, where it's like, oh, if you get knocked on the head, you'll just start speaking like another language or playing the piano or something like that. So to see them do this, I was like, okay, I'm living for this.
Which, speaking as the queen of concussions that I am, that has not happened yet to me. However, not to say it definitely can't happen.
Right, yeah. I think it's like people that wake up from comas or something like that. I feel like I've heard that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but I just love Buck being like, I'm the guy with the answers. I kind of like that. And I'm just like, yeah.
Of course.
Because for so long,
so
like
Buck.
Hen has been the one that's really like in her head can do like math conversions for different meds that you have to get a patient in the field and stuff like that. And Buck was able to like do it like in a snap. I'm like, I love it.
I get that though, because I'm bad at math, like really bad. So like I would have loved to have that ability, especially when I was in like high school. Because
like on an entire day, if you ask me what 2 + 2 is, I might say 2. Depending on how tired I am, my brain just will not.
That's relatable.
I'll just be like, oh, we're doing a pattern here, not realizing that I'm being asked a math question. That is literally elementary school. But like
I can do like like everyday math. Yeah, like one time I had what did I had to do? I had to do something for work, and I'm like, God, I'm not good at math. Like, why are you making me do math?
Right?
Yeah. I've done some at work before, and then I'm like, haha, I smart. But just in like general settings, nah.
Right.
It depends on the situation you're in.
Right, exactly.
Anyways, we have Maddie. She's running late for work, and a neighbor stops by, and I'm gonna put neighbor in quotes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I wrote it, is in quotes.
Yeah. She introduces herself and like kind of barges into Maddie's. It was so weird. And this woman had brought something over to give Maddie as like a housewarming gift, but they've been there for a while. So it's kind of delayed reaction, I guess. And so later Chim is going through doing dishes and he's talking to Maddie, but then he notices this weird dish that was not theirs. And he's like, what's this? And Maddie explains, it came from Carol. Like, she's a little odd, pushy, but she really wants to have coffee. And Maddie had taken the dish to work with whatever was in it because she just didn't have time to leave it at the house. And then the woman had explained where she lived, but then when Maddie goes to return the dish, she meets another Carol, but it's not the Carol that delivered the food tray. So they're kind of a little creeped out, and rightfully so.
Understandable.
Because some strange person showed up, gave them food, said they were where they were, and was not who they say they are. Which leads to Chim later talking to Bobby about Carol, and Bobby's like, maybe she's casing the place. And Chim's like, well, that's comforting. And it's not like they don't know a police officer they could talk to. So, I love how this starts.
There's that at least.
Yeah. So they start talking about it, and Chim's like, well, maybe you and law enforcement can come over and we can crack the case. I'm like, oh my God.
I love that though, because like, yeah, a mystery.
Yes, please.
Here for it.
Right. Yeah. And yeah. And then it's kind of off in the distance. You see Buck walking in, talking about math, and him and Eddie are talking, and like everybody's giving him like math equations to do in his head, and then he gives them the answer, and if he gets it right, like he wins money and whatever. So him and Eddie are collecting all this money. It's funny.
It was so funny. I love it.
I'm like, I'm okay with it for a little bit. It'll get old quickly though if it keeps happening. So our next scene is Hen and Chim find Denny at the hospital. It's weird because they bring a patient in from a call, and all of a sudden, like as they're taking the patient in, another ambulance arrives from an accident, and just this guy comes in, and Hen kind of recognizes him, but she kind of was breezed by pretty quickly on the gurney. Then she turns and she sees Denny, And like the other paramedic is kind of trying to like, oh, we'll call your mom, blah, blah, blah. And at this, it's like right before that, and had gotten a call from Karen, from her, about how Denny didn't take the bus home like he was supposed to. And just as she's kind of piecing all these together, this all happens with Denny. And it's like, this isn't exactly how they should have found out that Denny was getting to know his biological father, like at all. Like, this is wrong on so many levels.
Right. It was going to be a train wreck either way. There was no way this was going to go well. He wasn't going to admit that what he was doing. They were going to find out in a train wreck way, like this was, like, either way. So yeah.
Well, and thank God that Denny wasn't hurt in the accident.
Yeah. Apparently it just struck the driver's side.
Right. And, so Hen and Karen later on have to talk to Denny at the house about what's going on. They're just trying to protect him, which is totally understandable. And they had an agreement with the biological father for a reason. Yes, Denny wanted to know, but he should have asked Hen and Karen and not gone behind their backs.
Yeah, there was just so many levels on which this was not done right.
So Athena and Bobby go to dinner at Chim and Maddie's, and they're talking about this Carol lady. And Athena mentions that the number she had given Maddie was a real number, but it was a burner phone. And so they're like worried that she's trying to get money out of them, or they're trying to case the place, or just, your standard like creepy crap going on.
Okay, I'm the most paranoid person. Like, if there's a car that pulls up and I don't and the person's just parked in front of my house, I'm like totally at the window taking pictures of it, or like I'll have my mom pull it up like on the camera, and I'm like, okay, that's weird.
Right.
Most of the time it ends up being something like not creepy, but like I'm paranoid like that. I'm like, what the heck? Why are you here?
I've definitely growing up, 2 cop parents would do this, and I definitely feel this, but I don't know, I probably wouldn't even eat the shit that I was brought, simply because I don't know the person.
Oh my god, that reminds me of something. One time our old neighbor, I would think I was in like maybe the 7th grade, so I was like 13 and stuff, and our neighbors, they had dropped over, like it was around Christmas time, they had dropped off cookies, but we didn't know about it. And so my brother and I bring them in, and we're like, are they poisoned? That's just like, oh my god.
Well, that's the sad part. You don't know. And then she took it to work and gave it to everybody at work. And apparently
I know. What if this lady like literally poisoned them? What if it was like dosed all over again?
Dosed 2.0.
Oh my gosh. But the dispatch center.
Minus Taylor Kelly being there.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited for this scene. Okay. So next scene we see is Buddy. They're walking. They're both dressed in these night dress coats. We're like,
oh my gosh, they're on a date.
Oh my god, yes. Thank you, the writers, for giving us a date. Like, I know this was intended as it should be.
There's nothing anyone can say that'll convince me otherwise.
Right.
No, that was their first. That was their 100th date, and you can't convince me otherwise.
I know.
Not too.
How many episodes we had? Yeah, it's probably that many. So Buck's like, are you sure about this? And he's like, relax. It's a good place to put your new skills to work. So I'm like, okay, what are they doing?
I'm like, what are you doing?
And Buck's like, is this like some mob establishment? And Eddie's like, no, it's another kind of family. And opens up, and it's somebody recognizes Eddie. So apparently he's been there before, or they know him from somewhere else. And it ends up being a poker game with people from the department. And Captain Meta's there, who was there when Eddie got shot.
Mm-hmm. Just imagine that's how we learned about it. Like, this came in after you got shot. I was like, hey, so while you're in recovery, you want to learn about poker?
Right.
Oh my god. Like,
just imagine.
Right. And he's one of the other captains in the area. He's like, I still can't believe Buck survived that. Like, I mean, but they're glad he pulled through. And they start playing, and one of the captains was like, 3 minutes, huh? And Buck's like, what? And she's like, isn't that how long you were dead? And Eddie says 3 minutes and 17 seconds.
I love
how honey, we know you we know you kept track of how long your husband left you. Okay.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Literally. That's literally like what I was thinking. I was like, yes, husband. And like, I think we talked about this last week. Like, it was like we did Buck say it, and I'm like, no, Eddie said it because
That's right.
like Buck wouldn't know and stuff. He would know based on if the doctors told him how long he's dead, or if Eddie did, or anybody at the 118. But I love that Eddie was the one that said it because it's like that. Even if Buck did know, like that, he wouldn't be able to like think about it in that sense. So it's just more perfect.
He couldn't
like,
rattle
Eddie
it off
said
like
it.
that.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be a lot to wrap your head around. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
we can clearly tell that Eddie struggled.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, regardless of what we desire for their relationship to be, they are best friends.
Exactly.
And he watched his best friend basically be dead for almost 3.5 minutes. So yeah, I can understand.
Also, if I remember, he also was driving the ambulance. So
yeah,
added
Bobby
pressure.
forced him to drive the ambulance and wanted them to do more when they said, we'll do everything we can. He's like, we'll do more.
Most iconic.
Yes.
Yes.
And Meta commented that, he's asking Buck, like, did you see anything? Did you see a bright light? And Buck's like, no, he just saw that while he was on the ladder. And,
true.
So obviously during a poker game, he's probably counting cards and doing all his math skills to win every hand. He cleans Eddie out pretty quickly. So Eddie's getting to stand behind him and watch over him while they're playing. And everyone's just shocked. But I love.
Listen, I love a casual game of poker, but I was just watching this going, wow.
Right.
It was amusing.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I remember like when pictures of the poker game came out. So like I was able to connect some of the parts, but like it was funny because like everyone thought that this was going to be like another like undercover moment.
Right.
And it ended up being this, which is honestly a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And so when they'd first gotten it, they had to kind of go through like a commercial kitchen. And so when they're done and Buck wins, and there's obviously some very interesting body language and some looks shared between Buck and Eddie during the game. At the end, they're like, okay, so how do you want your winnings? And he ends up getting them in steaks, like fancy steaks, like actual beef steaks, which is funny because Oliver is definitely not a meat eater.
I know that.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's vegan. It's also kind of like how in Lone Star when like you see TK, like remember that the fried chicken scene, and I was just like, yeah, that's just funny because like Ronan's a vegan.
Yeah,
both of them. Yeah.
And one of the captains, as they're getting doled out, the captain comes up and tells Eddie, Diaz, you're always welcome here, but next time leave the human calculator at the firehouse, at least until his lightning superpowers wear off. So they technically got caught, but this was probably the best buddy scene like ever.
Honestly.
Oh yeah, this was good. I'm sorry, good. Eddie's just standing behind him looking like a proud husband the entire time. He's like, look at my smart boyfriend.
Right? I like definitely have the buddy glasses on when watching this scene.
Oh yeah.
100%.
I always have the buddy glasses on, but they were hard to leave off.
So we next get Maddie sets up a play date for this woman, Carol, supposedly, and her son, who happens to be around G's age. And when Maddie just exits the room briefly, the woman starts going through Maddie's mail, and then all of a sudden makes up an excuse that her son wasn't feeling well, so she was going to take him home. And when she opens up the door, the police are standing there. I love it. And they find out that the lady's, what the lady's real name is, and she's a coupon forger. She sells them online. I didn't know
this was a thing.
I didn't either.
So yeah. So she'd had money orders that were apparently coming to her, and she did live down the street before, but sold the house to the Carol. And the current owner, so she's trying to pay for legal fees, and she was arrested for fraud and forgery. And that was, she had just gotten out like a month prior. So she didn't want to get caught with doing this again. So she didn't use her own address and just thought since the house was abandoned that she'd go ahead and use that address, not realizing somebody had actually bought the house and was living in it now, which, yeah, lady was crazy.
I
For
mean,
sure.
just simply for getting out for 1 month and going straight back to it. Like, seriously.
I know, like, how dumb do you have to be? Like, it's always the people that like don't think they're ever gonna get caught, and then like obviously you're going to get caught. Like, and for something
And
so
the
stupid.
the irony is that she got caught already once before and didn't learn her lesson. I'm just like,
Well, yeah, that was
okay,
like
then.
the lady that was trying to like basically she went.
Oh, the insurance fraud?
Yes,
The porch pirate?
Yeah,
I
remember
was thinking the same person.
Yeah, no, like yeah, she started with them and she upscaled just slightly. It's like it's the same scenario. It's just like, did you really think you were gonna get away with it again?
Yeah. What's interesting is both of them got away for a while with it.
Right, yeah.
But all you have to do is catch the right nose and someone's gonna catch it.
Yeah.
So.
And had it been somebody else, they might not have caught on as quickly, but it was Maddie and she works for, 911 and her husband's a firefighter. They would have figured something out like they did.
I know. They really picked the wrong people.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Totally. Anyways, we have Ken and Karen are at the hospital visiting Nathaniel, which I think earlier I might have said Michael and I meant Nathaniel because,
It happens.
I
mix up Harry and Denny every once in a while too.
Yeah, that's true. It's easy to do just because one of them comes out. We haven't seen Harry this season though, so
we haven't seen him. I
forgot Nathaniel existed.
Me too.
I wanted to forget.
I forgot his name for damn sure. Like you could have said his name was, I don't know, Fred, and I would have believed you.
Same.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking a few minutes ago. I'm like, wait a second, did I say Michael? Because Michael's Athena's ex. Not. It's like they wouldn't put two Michaels in the same series.
Loki, I also forgot that Michael existed. It's just been a while.
I mean, same, but like all the people are trying to forget.
Oh my God.
So we have Hannah and Karen, and they're talking with him, and they flat out say that they broke their trust, or he broke their trust, but they also are not going to keep Denny away from him. But Nathaniel's going to have to follow their rules, and he totally agrees. And they're like, they were never against Denny knowing his biological father, but as soon as Denny showed up there, he should have picked up the phone and called them and said, he just showed up at my door, and been open from the beginning, and things would not have blown up like this.
Right.
But because
I feel like
they're both being punished.
I feel like there's the insecurity, that it's his biological family. He's gonna like him more or something. So I do think there was that, but it's just like Denny screwed up. Nathaniel as the adult was the one that ultimately fucked up.
Right, yeah, he knows better.
Well, and he
knew their wishes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was the agreement that they had made back when he first confronted them. When what's her face?
Eva.
Was trying to I was gonna call her Tiffy, but that was in the other show. Now I'm getting shows mixed up. This is great. We're on a roll here.
Yay! We're fine.
But yeah, so I think they just wanted to give him some time to get a little older, and definitely decide where he wants to, who he wants to know and if he wants to know them. But he didn't really give him that chance. And then Nathaniel had like multitude of opportunities to like share something with Hen and Karen, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. And while I agree that Denny was in the wrong, I also feel like, Nathaniel is the one to blame because he could have put a stop to it.
Oh yeah, like Denny's a kid.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing, but the adults still had the responsibility there. Yeah. Like what if Nathaniel was a creep?
Right.
Exactly.
Or what if he had just some really shady friends that happened to be around at the wrong time? Mm-hmm. Or what actually did wind up happening, but what if that had happened on a back road and no one found them? Yeah. Sure, they would have figured out that he didn't come back from school, but like, how long would that have taken?
Right. Yeah.
So, a whole multitude of things.
Right. And then speaking of like fathers and sons, we have Chris and Buck at Buck's place. And they're planning on making cookies, and Buck's saying that they should triple the recipe, and he comes up with some weird math about how much flour or something he needs. And then he's like, maybe we'll just find a new recipe that's a little easier. And then Chris is like,
because it was in the metric system.
Oh, yeah.
Which the US doesn't have. So, which is ironic considering that Oliver is British.
That's that was my next statement. I was like, well, Oliver would have figured it out.
Oliver would have Buck. I don't know. He knows useless facts. Useless in America, not everywhere else. But he knows useless to America facts. He could have swung that one.
Yeah, and then Chris was like, "Can we have cookies for dinner?" And Buck's like, "Yeah, I think they're gonna have steak and then cookies." And he asked, like, "Have you ever heard of a porterhouse?" And Chris is like, "Buck, I'm from Texas."
I love that.
I don't know why that line gave me so much happiness, but it did.
It was the way he said it. He was like, "Buck, I'm from Texas." Like, okay.
Like,
we
that
love
boy
you.
knows his roots. Mm-hmm.
I know. We love it.
And you can bet that Eddie was one of the reasons, like, he knew something about porterhouses.
Oh, 100%.
I was just, like, thinking about them going when he was a kid, and I don't know. Okay. Leave my family brain aside.
So that's the end of that episode. The next episode we're going to talk about is performance anxiety, which is 614. Tia Pepe's back. I think she needs to like open her eyes and realize that her nephew is not interested, like, because he's made it clear he's not. But you know,
I know there's that the well, because there's like this edit I saw that was like, Tia Peppa, stop it. Your nephew is gay.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Nile is a river in Egypt.
Yes,
your
that
nephew is
one.
gay.
But like,
yes.
but like the person made it so like it was like, Tia Peppa, stop it. Your nephew is gay, and we're all like, yeah.
So she tricks Eddie and asks him to come over to fix something. And while she's there, she starts talking to him about, you know, somebody she met, and it's a friend, it's a daughter of a friend or a granddaughter or niece or somebody. So I can't remember the relationship, but it's
I just watched this episode, so I can contribute what it was.
What was it?
So he walked into the dining room to find an older lady and a very pretty younger lady sitting there. He immediately backtracks, leaves the room with Peppa. And so this is one of Dia's friends with her niece, and they set up.
Yeah, okay. So I was like, I knew there was a connection. I just couldn't remember the exact connection.
Yeah. It literally felt like he like walked in and interrupted book club.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it did.
I mean, if Ryan Guzman walked into any room I was in, I would definitely be enjoying that view. So I wouldn't have wanted him to walk out.
But, I mean, yeah.
True. This man's fine.
So he kind of goes off on it. He's like, you set me up. So yeah, so he kind of went off on her about it. And he's at the firehouse later, and they're talking about, you know, Eddie and this pseudo date thing that he and this chick agree to go out on. And Eddie's trying to figure out a way to like let her down, and Buck's like, you know, you could it's funny because like when Buck like brings something up and I'm like, Buck, why are you even trying to encourage this?
Excuse me. He's being faithful to you.
But it's funny, like everybody at the table and like the firehouse are like talking about because you know, it's news. And then Hen gives him advice that, you know, so the performance anxiety comes in when, you know, Eddie's talking about he hates dates because he feels like he has to perform, and he's like, Hen kind of shares like, well, you kind of always do on a first date, so just get over it. And Jim was like, yeah, Tia number 3 has entered the chat.
I love that.
Because
that was so funny.
Both Eddie and the other girl were set up by aunts, so now we've got Aunt Hen joining in the ranks. And then but Hen did add, she's like, I bet she's panicking about this too. And Eddie's like, I don't panic,
honey, we already established this. Okay, you panic.
Every
you literally had a
like,
panic attack.
I don't panic. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you also had a panic attack that you went to the hospital for, have a cardiologist now for, and you almost had one at your aunt's house. So yeah, but why would he have a panic attack? He's had a panic attack at every time he's thought of dating a woman. Gee, I wonder why.
I wonder why. The writers don't know.
Sounds like homosexuality. I have more to say on the topic of all that, but I'm actually going to wait until like further down this episode. Yeah, so, I have things to say.
Yeah. So in the midst of this, then Bobby puts a cake on the table, and they're all like, "What the heck?" And he's like, "Oh, it's nothing." And they're like, "Okay, well, what's the occasion? Is it somebody's birthday or whatever?" And then Bobby says, "How this week all see them individually for their annual reviews. And it's not just to get constructive criticism, it's for them to give it to Bobby as well. And Eddie's like, now I'm panicking. And everyone starts kind of freaking out. And Chim's like, I was here before you all, and Cap, and I'll still be here when you're gone. And like, yeah, okay, we'll see.
No, it's
Okay,
funny.
okay, Chim.
Like, we love the confidence. Like, okay, go off. But like, it's just really funny. It's just like, okay, Chim, we see you. He would be the one that would be there when everyone else was gone for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That man's gonna be like
totally
90 and in a wheelchair and still like chasing the
Gotta
fire
get to
truck
that
left without
fire.
him.
That would be Chim.
Yep. That's about right.
I just picture like Eddie and Buck also being there and them just taking care of each other. Oh my god, I have so many images in my head. This needs to be a fanfic.
God.
Yes.
Oh boy.
I'll write it. The crack fic. It's just gonna be a crack fic of Chimney
I mean,
chasing the fire truck every given opportunity.
The fire truck is like on its last leg. Relatable.
Depending on how many fire trucks they've gone through by that.
So Chim gets his is picked first. Probably shouldn't have said anything. I feel like he kind of jinxed himself. And Bobby takes him into the office and points out that while everything is outstanding in him, his leadership qualities need some work. And Chim's like, I don't want to be a leader. And Bobby's like, but you are. And he shares that he's transferring him to the academy because he's gotten too comfortable at the 118. I'm like, wow, okay, that's what we're doing. All right.
Yeah.
But we see a familiar face when Chim hits the academy. And he makes a comment. He's like, aren't you glad you're not a recruit anymore? And it's Robbie.
Robbie is back.
Yay. So Robbie's back.
Yay, Robbie.
So Robbie's been at the academy working as a peer group instructor. And Chim's like, you've been down here a while. And Robbie's like, yeah, 6 months. And Chim's asking him if he saw him on the news. He heard about the save in Long Beach. And Robbie says, yeah, he hurt his shoulder and rehab's taking a bit. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So hope that. Chim's like, you're coming back to us. And he's like, there's a pause, and like Robbie says, like, eventually. I'm like, okay, Robbie's
There's
going
some
through
stuff
some stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
And so Robbie explains that he knew that Chim was coming down, but he didn't tell Robbie why. And Chim's like, I have a feeling that's something I have to figure out myself, which is what Chim says. And yeah, so immediately Chim jumps into like drilling these guys, and like, poor guys.
That was something. It was so interesting to watch.
Right.
For a brief moment, I was almost terrified off of my dream of being a firefighter. Just watching the scene, I was like, okay.
Yeah. This like pretty much depicted what I imagined it be based on what one of my friends has told me. Like, almost perfectly.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Like, yeah.
So our next scene is Eddie out on this date with this Vanessa girl. But the good thing is they're on the same page. She was going to let him down easy too. So they decide before they leave and part for the night, they are going to get their story straight as to what they're going to tell their aunts about the date, because the aunts are obviously going to check up on them.
Mm-hmm. Hell, they're probably sitting outside in a car watching the freaking...
You know, probably.
Like...
That would be... If I could totally see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if this was totally a telenovela, you know that shit would be happening.
Oh, sure.
100%.
They just have binoculars watching through the windows.
Right.
Be like, how close are they sitting?
Like, what are they eating? Yeah. Which I think Eddie's a little surprised that he's also kind of let down too. So I don't know. I feel like there's some upset there, but also like he's relieved. But when it's Eddie's turn to talk to Bobby, then that's what Eddie starts talking to him about. And Bobby's like, we're not here to review your date.
Yeah,
and,
he kind of forgot when therapy happened.
Right. Yeah. And then Eddie avoids giving any feedback to Bobby, which it's hard. Like, it's your boss, but he's also a close friend. So he's like, what do you say to that person, And so we go back to the fire academy, and we have Chim going on with the recruits, and he went up on the roof, right, while they were going down on the ropes, and Ravi was down on the lower level, and he's really putting some pressure on these guys. I think there was a girl there. I don't remember. Was she? And one of them starts panicking while he's going down the side of the building on a rope, because it's not something you do every day. It's not something firefighters do every day either, even though Buck seems to always end up being the one doing it.
We do later find out that he has a fear of heights, so that
Right.
sucks.
And and I think he panicked enough, and then they were trying to rescue him, but unfortunately couldn't grab him, and he fell. And even though he fell on kind of like a mat, he kind of injured himself.
Yeah, well, that happened to the guy that was trying to help him to begin with, because he was trying to play hero.
Ugh, yeah.
Jim managed to go down and help the initial guy who panicked, though, which was something. Which it was nice to see him,
right,
kind of big brothering him down almost.
Yeah.
But
I think Chim's a really good leader. He just doesn't like being a leader, so he just tries to avoid it. So he doesn't have a lot of practice in it.
Yeah, I think the one time as Captain Han kind of taught him a lesson, and now he's too taught.
Right. So Buck is up next, getting a review with Bobby, and Bobby says that Buck is outstanding, but his PT scores are good. And Buck says, "Wait a second, how are they not?" Like he wants him to be better, and he's like, I don't want you cutting me any slack. He's like, just because I got injured on the job. Yeah, I almost died. I think he can get a little bit of a pass. Just, and it's not like Buck doesn't exercise and do stuff. He's good. He doesn't have to be the number one firefighter, but Buck's not going to get off easy. Bobby wants feedback. He's not getting any.
Yeah.
Right. I get Buck being he doesn't want to be, he wants to be, I don't know, he wants to punish himself a little bit, but it's what are you punishing? There's literally nothing you can do. He's giving you a little break, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I get it from where I'm looking at from him, but I'm also it's okay. You don't have to make yourself feel that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we see Hen's review, and Bobby shares that he feels like she's been doing outstanding at everything, and that she might have even outperformed him as captain when she filled in for him. But he reminded her that while she was in medical school, none of her continuing education classes for LAFD got completed. So her paramedic license is about to expire in 10 days. So he was able to get her an extension. And he's like, okay, so I was honest with you. Now it's your turn. And again.
Oh my gosh.
Hen is later telling Athena about it. And Athena's like, well, what'd you say? Hen's like, I said his captain's truck is very clean. And Athena's like, you used that one again?
It's nobody can be honest with this man. As if they think he's gonna yell at them or something.
Right.
I get it. If I was literally put in this position and I had to tell my bosses constructive criticism, okay, Bobby's a great boss. Telling him something would be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
I would be intimidated.
I'd say that for all the bosses I've lived, worked under.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next scene we see is it's a really good scene, I think. Chim is at the wow, my head just blanked. So Chim is looking at the board of the fallen firefighters at training, and he sees Kevin, which we know is the guy that was basically his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And Robbie finds him there, and Chim tells Robbie about Kevin, and he explains how they joined the fire department together, and Chim led the charge, and it was good for him to explain that, because I think Chim realized that Robbie was hiding something and was hoping that would help Robbie open up. And it worked, because Chim had explained that Kevin, the reason why he became a firefighter is, but he's also afraid to lead anybody into anything is because he's also encouraged Kevin, and then Kevin passed away on the job. And Chim finally says, like, I think I know why Cap sent him here. And he asks why Ravi's still down there, because he still hasn't told him. So he tells him about the save in Long Beach. And Ravi says, kind of finally does open up and explains that he was driving with his parents when he saw a car diving off the pier, and he didn't have time to think. He just jumped into the water, which is awesome. And he saved the people inside the car. It was a father and 2 kids. He saved the father, but he could only save one of the kids. So one of the kids passed away. And also there's some guilt with Robbie because the father purposely drove it off the pier. So I think there's some guilt that he saved the guy that did this to the kids. And now one of them is dead and one of them has to live with that.
Yeah.
And, Chim goes on to explain that, that's definitely a rough situation, but, and that he had a hand in it sucked, but he focused on what was important and that they're in the business of saving lives, not judging them. That's the police, the judges, the legal system, and ultimately God to do. And Ravi asks if Chim ever thinks, that some people's lives aren't worth saving. And then Chim's like, if you're thinking that, then you don't belong on the rig. And it's true, because at the moment, as soon as Ravi found that out, he's like, that guy wasn't worth saving, which he wasn't. But again, he's a firefighter, not a police officer, or anyone in the legal system. So he has no business judging them.
Right.
Which definitely is that moral dilemma of who do you save?
Right.
Yeah.
Which I get what Jim's saying, but we're also, people are human, and there's always those cases where you think to yourself, like, if somebody committed just like such a heinous crime, you think to yourself, like, yeah, they're not worth it and stuff. Like, we're all human. That they're thinking that in the back of their head when they encounter something. I've seen this done on other shows too, and stuff. But like, it's different than thinking something rather than like going through with not doing your job.
Yeah.
There's 2 different things. You're allowed to think, man, this is really not worth it.
But also sometimes, and this comes with jobs where I don't necessarily always love using this term, but I'll use it for now, where you play God. And that often is saving lives. There runs the risk, or at least I believe there runs the risk, that you assume a judge role.
Yeah.
Or you have it cross your mind at some point that you can play the ultimate judge. And it's just sometimes that it happens, but it doesn't stay. It's not much more than a passing thought, and some people latch onto it, and that's when it's dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think is kind of why Robbie was hiding at training camp, because
100%.
He knows he can't feel that way. It's hard to break that feeling.
Which, hey, I have more respect for him for taking himself out of it than him trying to stay on. If he tried to stay on through that, but no, he was self-aware and knew he couldn't play that role, and I'm happy for him on that.
Right.
Me too.
Even as difficult as it is.
Right. And I think he mostly had like a lot of guilt about what happened too.
Yeah.
So that was like, I gotta like be here to punish myself, essentially.
Yeah. I'm also getting the vibe that he's maybe a bit disenchanted with being a firefighter. Like, I think he just realized like some of the nitty gritty that entails, and that includes you save everyone, and that means you save the horrible ones.
Yeah.
Obviously, even at the time of his rescue, he was working off of limited knowledge. Like, at the time, he certainly didn't know it was intentional. But yeah.
So after this scene, we get a scene of Maddie starts singing to G while she's putting her to bed, and then Chim comes in and they all sing together. It was so cute. It was such a cute
adorable.
game.
Wholesome content.
Yes, definitely. And then the next day we see Chim, one of the recruits washed out because he's found out that he's afraid of heights. And Chim gives him a card for dispatch because he's good under pressure. He just doesn't like heights. So he could be a dispatcher. And, reminds him that he's not necessarily a washout. It's not for him, which is understandable. Not everybody is. And then he walks a little further and sees Robbie. And Chim tells him, it's time. He's got to get back out there. And kind of like, come on, let's go. And so Robbie comes home with the 118s. And I love that, like, he walks in and like, look who's back. Look who I brought.
They're all like, Robbie. And Buck hugging him.
Yeah,
like that
was so good.
Yeah. That was all really cute.
And then Chim kind of talks to Bobby and he's like, so you sent me to the academy to bring Robbie back. And Bobby's like, you're a good teacher and a better leader than you give yourself credit for. Chim led and Robbie followed.
I love that so freaking much.
Yeah, that was really good. Honestly one of my like top tier like Chim Bobby scenes. I'm like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes. Like I just love like the lesson behind that whole episode and stuff like that, because you're like, wait, why is Chim here? And then you're like, at the end of that episode you're like, oh, okay, right. I see you, Bobby. Like Bobby knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And Chim's like, okay, and now it's time for me to give you your review on behalf of the entire 118. And he's like, why can't you? And then of course the bells go off. So
I want to know what he was going to say.
Me too.
That's like not knowing why Chimney is called Chimney and them just like holding it over us for seasons.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there was a scene a little bit ago about Eddie talking to Tia about the date. She definitely was skeptical that it actually happened, but Tia, she's got Buck. He's good. He's got Buck and Christopher.
Okay, she literally commented like in season 2 when Eddie was first introduced, like she made like jokes. Oh, like you dressed like each other, like
oh yeah.
Like, I want like oh my god, there's so much involved with that. Like, come on, like just wake up, Tia.
Honestly, this is where I'm gonna go through it of one of my things. It was very interesting because I've had a headcanon for a while about Eddie, but this kind of felt like this struck home. So I've had a headcanon for a while that not only is Eddie gay, obviously, we've had that, but like more realistically, even to the writing, that he's demi.
Oh, I 100% agree.
And for anyone who does not know what demi is, demisexual or demi-romantic is when you do not have primary attraction, sexual or romantic. You only experience attraction after an emotional connection has been forged. It is on the asexual or aromantic spectrum. I am demi, so this plays very close to me. It's like 2 steps away from being ace or aro, but you do have some attraction. It's just extremely exclusive. And takes a long time in coming. Right. And I know I've heard a lot of people say before that, oh, everyone wants a emotional connection with someone they're with. Okay, for the most part of that is true, but that isn't exactly how demi works. For demi people, that's all they can do. They don't do hookups. They can't they can't just start dating somebody because the feelings aren't there. They barely even like the person.
Right.
Speaking as a demi person, it can be extremely hard in this day and age to date. Yeah. Dating apps, not for me. How the hell am I supposed to know if I even like this person as a person? It's pretty complicated. Well, not really, but just a lot of people like to look at it complicated way. But Eddie fits so many of the qualifications for being demisexual, demi-romantic. If we think about it, we've only really seen him with Shannon, who was his wife, who he therefore had an emotional connection with. Anna, who he was rushed into and still had trouble feeling connected with her even after almost a year of dating. And trust me, pressure that can really impact someone who's demi. Pressure to date somebody, yeah, absolutely can impact. And correct me if I'm missing anybody, but like this is like the only like the third time we've seen this, and it's the guest setting him up, and he doesn't want this.
Yeah.
He oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts behind this, but I've had this as a headcanon for a while, and I just felt like this episode affirmed so much of that. Like, yes, he's gay and loves Buck.
Yeah.
But like even more realistically than that, I really feel like he's demi. And the sad thing is that we're also never going to get that shown because people barely even know what demi is to begin with. It's not really represented on television. And the ironic part is that even straight people can be demi. It's not exclusive to the LGBTQ community. It's just mainly known and used by people that are already queer, because we're really the only people that look into labels.
Right.
Yeah.
So just saying, like, you can be straight and you can be demi, just like you can be heteroromantic but asexual. Like, not all these terms are exclusive just to people who like are a little yas.
Yeah.
These can also be used. So regardless of the fact that he is gay, it still applies to him no matter how you think he slices his pie. So I just want to throw that out there because I was having an entire moment of going, same Eddie, same.
Mm-hmm.
You're my little demi boy now. So tangent over.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I think that's a good point. I feel like Eddie's definitely that way. He's not really interested in dating relationships and little dates here and there.
He
And
definitely likes doing it on his own terms.
Yeah.
100%. I get that though.
Right. And Peppa was definitely not giving him that chance.
I know. Like,
yeah, I love Peppa, but
I love
honestly,
Peppa,
if you're gonna put your medals on like places to work, put him on Buck on a blind date. That's it.
Yes.
Just tell him that it's another blind date. Don't tell him who it is.
And Buck shows up and then he's like, "What are you doing here?"
Just imagine that Dia told them both they were on a date and they don't work out as each other. Just like their date doesn't show.
Oh yeah.
as we have affirmed, they are a little stupid.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to each other.
Right. No. And overall, I really like these episodes. I did like all the buddy content.
Yes.
I think this is the last time I'll be able to say that this season, sadly.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I gotta rewatch the rest of them, but
but I love the content, and I love Eddie looking at Buck, and Eddie sees Buck for who he is and doesn't necessarily see him as the kid of the group anymore. And sometimes I feel like he's not always taken seriously, but then Eddie turns around and like definitely takes him seriously.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, they
took him seriously before everyone else did.
Yeah.
But I think like even more than ever, he views him as a peer. Yeah. Which they're not that far apart in age to begin with, but Buck's matured by leaps and bounds. So he definitely, they're on more of an equal standing than they ever were. They're growing.
Right.
That's where you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like these episodes. Like, obviously, there's like heavy buddy content, which we love.
Yes.
And Buck doing math is pretty funny. From what I remember, they don't really bring it up again, which is fine. Like, they did that would have been fine. But like, it's kind of one of those things where you can't have like 5 Jinx episodes. Like, you can't have more than one. Like, it's funny for like the one episode, but if they like did it more than once, it'd get old. Where you don't want that stuff to get old. Like, you can watch the one episode like a bunch of times and still get the same effect where it's still funny. So like, I'm glad they didn't overdo it. Because that just wouldn't have been good. And I liked I liked that Robbie came back. We got to know like that side of the story, and I liked that like Chim had a role to play in that, and they were just really good episodes.
Yeah, I really liked the episodes. Like I just watched them for the first time today. And so like, the awe is still a little fresh for me. I think these were a couple episodes where I like genuinely they were just genuinely good 911 episodes. I didn't feel like we were going through a particular drama at that point, or there was any conflicting things. Like I genuinely enjoyed all of the episodes. Like obviously the buddy content, the Buckley Diaz family content.
Of course, yes.
Of course that's my favorite. But I love stuff like I did enjoy Robbie coming back. Like he was never my favorite character, but I genuinely liked him. I did enjoy like the Hen Karen Denny resolution because we, at some point we see them allowing Denny to visit Nathaniel in the hospital. And so we're like, okay, we're starting. And also loved that, I don't think we even mentioned it really in the podcast, but Tony came back and talked to Denny. And I just kind of loved her being the protective grandma.
Yes.
Oh yeah, especially since she was like, she said like, I agree with you, but like I also see his view.
Right.
Like she was a good mediator. Like she was she really did well on that. Loved seeing her back. Like genuinely just enjoyed all of this. And I know it's gonna be interesting to watch the next couple of episodes for me who has not watched it. It's gonna be interesting talking about the next few. So
yeah. Yeah. Right. Where's my notes? We done?
I assume so, unless we have anything else to say.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere you can get your podcasts. On iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It means a lot to us. You can follow the podcast on our socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and now we're also on Threads. As always, you can also join our Discord server. The link will be in the description of the podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys can follow me, Katie @FullofCharlos on Instagram and TikTok and Threads. I know it's new, so like it's very exciting though. I really like it compared to Twitter.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Threads before this.
Oh my god.
We'll teach you. I just got on.
I literally
today.
It just came out today, but people have been talking about it for weeks.
Oh, I have not gone. Anyway, you guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafa911 on Instagram and at SheepGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads.
Bye.
Bye.